And so, professors, let's look at the benefits of delegation as we spoke about just some few minutes ago. So, one, management gets more time for other important matters. Delegation frees up managers to focus on strategic planning, decision making, and other high priority tasks. So that is the one of the benefits of delegating, right? Imagine you have to think about how to get money to finance the operation of the business, and then you have to do something as typing a letter. You can delegate that to your secretary or somebody else to do the typing while you focus on how to, get those funds, right? So we say if you delegate, it gives you the room to focus on very important issues about the organization. Two, it speeds up decision making. Okay, delegation empowers subordinates to make decisions, reducing the need for managerial approval. And so, yes, in a business where managers delegate, okay, decision making is quicker and faster. The more reason why productivity will increase, because then you are not waiting for one person to finish up something before you continue your task or responsibility, right? Okay, so delegation in a way speeds up decision making. The next one is it saves time. Of course, it saves time if you, like in the video we watched, if he had assigned some of the tasks to his colleagues or subordinates, I should say, then you wouldn't have been wasting time even to the point of sleeping off. Right? Okay. The next point is it improves self-confidence and willingness of subordinates. Okay. So we say that, I think I'll use Na's example. I think after taking care of her younger siblings, now she will be so confident anytime she's given the authority and responsibility to take care of people, right? So as managers delegate to their subordinates, it builds the confidence of the subordinates. Okay. So that is the bit about the benefit. But let's look at why managers don't delegate. And so going back to this video, why was this gentleman failing to delegate? Why? What was the reason why he didn't want to delegate? Okay, I'm seeing more hands, please. I need more hands. Some few professors haven't spoken. I think Nadom, Afiba, Enam, I haven't heard her voice this morning, and then Bimbo, Abubakar. So if I can hear from any of these professors, I'll be so glad. Nadom, are you there?
Please, I joined the class a little bit late, so I'm still following on what you are saying.
Okay, but at least I think you are in the home. Sometimes you feel your parents should allow you do certain things, okay, take up certain responsibilities, but they fail to do so. Why do you think they fail to give you those responsibilities and authority?
Okay. They feel you are irresponsible. Oh, yes.
Okay, so they feel you don't have the competence, right, to take care of that
Yes,
responsibility. Please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Prof. Afiba. Prof. Afiba, I would love to hear from you. Okay. Okay, let me hear from Enam.
Please, some leaders do not do delegation because they they feel the other team members will feel. They feel
Oh,
that the task won't be well completed. That's why they
okay.
do not do delegation.
Okay. So they lack confidence um, in their subordinate. They don't trust the confidence or the expertise and skills of their subordinates, right? So they fail to delegate. Okay, let me hear from Augustine Akoli.
Sir, please, because of trust issues.
Okay, so he's also on the trust issues bit. Portia.
So please, accountability. Like the managers may feel that delegating tasks will make them less accountable for the outcome.
Okay, that is a good point you make there. You see, there are some managers, they don't want to do everything and face the consequences, so they would not want to delegate to another person, right? And later be held responsible for that. Okay, because even though you delegate, you are still held accountable, right? Uh-huh. So for example, if your father sent you on an errand to drive his car to the washing bay or something, if anything happens, your father, the owner of the car, would also be questioned. Okay. Uh-huh. So for avoidance of such accountability, I won't send my child to go to the washing bay, I'll do it myself. Okay. I think I saw Janelle's hand. Janelle, let me hear from you, then I'll pick now finally. Prof. Janelle.
So please, managers may feel that delegating tasks will make them appear lazy.
Exactly. I think this one is I don't know, but in our homes, our mothers, sometimes they are doing some small stew. You know you can do this stew, but this woman will not give to you. Why? Because she feels that she will be lazy. I don't know if you have experienced that in your home before, but my mom would do everything because she doesn't want to, I don't know, give the impression that she's lazy. It sounds weird, but that is a fact. Some managers don't want to appear lazy, so they won't delegate so that they will do the work, they will do all the task and assignment. Okay, so that's a valid point made there. Thank you, Prof. Janelle. Prof, now let's hear you finally, and then I'll give my final comments.
I'll say, please, they, please, the managers too may feel like they're trying to please the person who hired them, so they try to do the whole work themselves. Or sometimes they feel superior that they do not want to give the work to other people to do.
Yeah, they want to show that they know everything, they can do everything. Yes, that is also true. Thank you, Professor. So let's look at a few points I gathered here. So one, it says, I can do it better myself fallacy. Okay, managers may believe they can perform tasks better than their subordinate. Because of course, imagine your teacher asking you to teach a certain topic. They said, oh, this student, he cannot teach it. I'm the teacher. I have gone to the university and I'm the one being trained and I can teach. Okay, so that I can do it better mentality, right? Prevents some managers from delegating. Then two, lack of confidence in subordinates. I think we made that point in our discussions. Some managers don't have confidence in their subordinates at all. They don't trust them to do the work. Absence of control system. Managers may fear losing control over tasks and outcomes. Yes, some managers feel that if they delegate, they will lose control over their subordinates. Okay, and they don't want to lose control. They always want to be the ones doing all the controlling, right? Um, fourth point, fear of subordinate as competitors. This is I want to share this story. I think a friend of mine said in her home, she prepared a stew And when the father tasted the stew, every time the father wanted her to prepare the stew other than her mother. And this was creating some form of competition between the mother and the daughter. So some managers don't want that competition, because if they delegate and the subordinates, execute the task well, then they begin to get worried. Hey, so this person can do this thing well, then probably if I don't take care, I'll lose my job. The person will come and fill that position. So for the fear of competition from subordinates, right, they tend to. Then the last one, fear of appearing lazy. I think one of us made that point. Some managers don't want to appear lazy. They want to always be seen busy. Okay, now let's look at the other side of the coin, where subordinates don't accept delegation. They don't want to take responsibility. They say, oh, my boss said, this one I can't do it. Oh, please do it yourself. Oh, sir, I can't do it. Oh, sir, I don't know how to do it. Subordinates just don't want to accept delegated responsibility. And one of them is fear of criticisms for mistakes. Okay, they don't want to be blamed for errors and mistakes, so they don't want to be delegated to. And it's easier to ask the boss than to decide for themselves. You see, decision making is not easy. So if you can always go to your boss to ask what to do, you will prefer that over you deciding or taking the decision yourself. Okay. So the school prefect would always want to run to the assistant headmasters or the headmaster for guidance and decision rather than he taking the decision. Okay. And 3, lack of necessary information and resources. Yes. Sometimes subordinates don't want to take up responsibility from their bosses because they don't have the resources and the necessary information. Imagine if my headmaster sends me to go to the Northern region to attend a meeting on his behalf. I don't have any information about the Northern region. In fact, I have not gone there before. So I don't know the ins and outs of Northern region. Definitely, I would deny or reject this responsibility coming from my headmaster. And then the next one, lack of self-confidence. The subordinate himself or herself doesn't have the confidence that he can perform. Okay. And finally, lack of incentives. Okay, some bosses will send you, will ask you to do this, but they will not give you any incentive, any bonus or allowance. Some subordinates, this one, I'm sorry, but some subordinates will not do that because, taking on more tasks and assignments, at least some little incentive should follow. That's why some of you professors, when your parents delegate authority, you want to take tips or bonuses. You say, hey, nada, oh, mama, and sister, man, fan. You want some incentive. If they say, hey, no, bring my chin, then you sometimes drag your feet and that mean you. Okay. So that's the reality of some of these things. Please, any question up to this point? Any question? Any question? Oh, okay, no questions. Then finally, let's look at our last point, which is making delegation effective. How can we make delegation effective? Okay, or how can we make delegation more beneficial to the organization? Okay, how can we make it work? And so I think before we can look at some of the points I have here, let me hear from my professors. This is more of a discussion with you rather than just preaching the gospel. Okay, so I see Lydia. Please, who is Lydia? Of Lydia. She's just joining. I think her microphone is not connected yet. But Prof. Lydia, if you can hear me, you would introduce yourself for us. if you're a parent too, we'll be glad to have a parent in class. And maybe we'll ask you a few questions as our dear parent. Okay, but professors, how do you make delegation effective? What do you have to do to ensure that, one, you assign tasks and responsibilities to your subordinate? Okay. Okay, I think Lydia is. Okay, Lydia, can you hear you? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll get to know Lydia more in our subsequent class. I think she joined late, so in our next class, we'll get her name, her school, and others. But you are welcome officially to business management on the Omega online vacation classes. Okay. So we are discussing delegation. Okay, that is managers or superiors assigning some of the task to subordinates. Okay, so even in our home, sometimes your parent will ask you to do certain things. Your mother can ask you to cook. So then she will give you the authority and responsibility to cook, right? We've looked at the benefit of delegation. I think I'll share the video later for your perusal. But now we are looking at how to make delegation effective. How do you make it work in your organization? And professors, I want to hear from you. Yes, Prof. Now this time I'll call you first.
Okay, so please, to make delegation effective, especially for the subordinates, I think the managers should create a safe and pleasing environment where they'll be able to be safe and happy working there.
Okay. That is a valid point there. So the manager should create a conducive environment. And when we talk of conducive environment, it includes, giving the person the necessary tools, okay, ensuring that the person has the necessary skills. So the example I gave, if your father wants you to drive his car to deliver goods to someone, then your father should make sure you know how to drive, right? He should be able to fuel the car. Okay, if the car tires are wearing off, you should make sure they are in good condition. Okay, so you should make everything conducive for you to be able to perform that task. If the tires are worn out, how can you drive and deliver the goods? So we say for delegation to be effective, the necessary tools, information, skills should be given to the subordinate, right? So for example, you are asking your subordinate to do typing. You know the person does not know how to do typing. At least you can offer a training for the subordinate to gain that skill to be able to perform the typing task. Thank you, Prof. Let's hear from Josephine, then I'll pick Portia. So Josephine, let's hear you.
Is by providing the necessary resources and support.
Exactly. As so the necessary resources, if it's money, should be given. Your boss, ask you to, run an errand for him. Maybe you are in Accra, he asked you to come to Cape Coast to pick up some letters, and he didn't give you any transportation fare. How can you do that? So the necessary resources should be made available. Okay, Portia, let's hear you.
So please, by monitoring progress and providing feedback for improvement.
Exactly. You have to monitor, and also take feedback. Yes. Prof. Listowell.
So please, by incentives.
Okay, so at least putting in some incentive packages for subordinates in a way. That is also true. Okay. I would love to hear from Bimbu and Emmanuel Kujo. and then Afiba. These are my three professors who haven't spoken today. Well, a little hello from you, I think, will do the magic for me, right? So, Prof. Bimbu. Okay, they just WhatsApp me that they are. Okay, so nice hearing from you. Would you want to share an idea as to how we can make delegation effective?
Sir, please, sir. I didn't join the class early, so I missed the delegation part.
Okay,
I
no
just joined
worries.
the second one.
Okay, so make sure to make use of the video when I share in the page. Okay, thank you though for responding to my call. Prof. Afiba, are you there? Okay, I think Afiba just WhatsApp me that she's shy. Afiba, if you are not shy, talk to us. Emmanuel, Prof. Emmanuel Kujo, are you there?
Yes, please.
Okay, nice to hear your masculine voice. Okay, so the point you've all made is very valid. Let's look at this few. One is clarify the assignment. So if you want, as a manager, if you want your subordinate to do something, you have to clearly define it. What specifically do you want me to do? Okay, if you want the delegation to be effective, you have to clearly define the tasks and responsibilities. So I'm sure in Na's scenario, her parent clearly defined what Na had to do to take care of her younger siblings. Okay, so maybe, okay, Akoli has made a point, I'll pick up that point. So they will tell you, if you wake up in the morning, make sure they have taken their bath, brush their teeth, take them to school. So those specific tasks should be clearly stated or defined. Okay. The next one is specify range of discretion. Now, if you give authority to people, you have to define the boundaries. So if your father asks you to take his car to the washing bay, he has given you that authority, that power to drive the car. But there should be boundaries. The power or the authority was for you to drive the car to the washing bay, not to, let's say, the football stadium or to a pub. Okay, so your father should be able to define the range. At best, you say, hey, make sure you don't drive the car to any other place. Well, if you want to pass your auntie's place, you can do that. So then your father is clearly defining the boundaries of the authority. Okay. If you don't do that, delegation will not be effective because then subordinates sometimes may, trespass. Okay. So Akoli makes the point that make sure the subordinates are held accountable. Yes, you should hold your subordinates accountable for the authority that you gave them. So, for example, your father can hold you accountable that I told you to take the car to the washing bay for the car to be washed. Why is it that the bonnet is dirty? Okay, what did you do? Where did you pass? Okay, he should be able to ask you those questions and get feedback or report on that. Okay. And now also makes the point that the managers should humble themselves and gain confidence in their subordinates so that it's easier to trust them. And in fact, for delegation to be effective, there should be that trust, okay, from managers. Because if you don't trust the subordinates, then you can't even delegate at all, right? So trust is very important. And it should be two-way a thing. The subordinates should also trust their subordinates for the responsibilities that has been assigned to them. Okay. Allow employees to participate. Okay. Involve subordinates in the delegation process and encourage their input. Okay. So if you want delegation to be effective, you have to make sure that your subordinates are also participating. They are adding their views to whatever you are doing. And then announce delegation. That's communicate to the person you want to assign responsibility and authorities to. Okay. If you don't communicate to that person, how is delegation going to be successful? And then establish feedback channels. Okay. Establish feedback channels. You need to hear from the person you have delegated to. So I'm sure in the scenarios I've given, in Na's case, I'm sure at some point the parents will call Na and say, hey, how are your young ones doing? Are they asleep? Have they eaten? Right? So they are trying to get feedback from Na. Yeah. And if your father sends you to the washing bay, I'm sure definitely he'll call you to say, hey, are you there? Has the car been washed? Okay. So that is feedback. Establish feedback channels. If you don't establish feedback channels, the next thing you hear, the subordinate has messed up, and you, the manager, will now have to go and ask or answer questions. Okay. So these are ways you can make delegation effective. Professors, by way of quick review, I would want all of us to review what we have learned, but I think I'll go first. So we started the lesson. Now for the benefit of Prof. Lydia, we started the lesson by watching a short video where this gentleman here got promoted to a higher position and he felt he could do everything. And so he was taking care of a project, he was writing a report. His friend wanted to take him to lunch, so he had a lot of things to do. Okay, but this gentleman kept insisting doing it himself. I think at some point, one of his friends, yeah, so you could see here telling the guy, I know it's going to be ready. Mhm. So you see here, the lady was telling the man to forward the call to another person who was even a lead on the project they were working on. But he insisted, no, he has to talk to the man himself. Okay? Mhm. Uh-huh. So you see here, his colleague said he has put together some points, but he said, no, I don't want to use yours, I'll use mine. So this is the point where this manager is just failing to delegate because he feels he can do everything by himself. Okay, I think I see some questions in the chat. Sir, please, is delegation the same as decentralization? Well, the answer is no, but the two work hand in hand. You see delegation more in a decentralized system. Okay, decentralization is spreading authority, okay, throughout the organization, as in the opposite of centralization. Centralization is where only the top level managers take decisions or have the authority to take decisions. Okay, so centralization, decentralization is more about the authority and power to make decisions. But delegation can go down as simple as you performing a task or an assignment. Okay. So they are not the same, but they have a lot of element in common. Okay, Prof. Now let's hear you.
So please, I also have a question.
Okay.
Please, in a situation whereby, like, when the manager is coming to delegate and, like, more than, or let's say, like, two subordinates have the same skill,
Mm-hmm.
and the work is supposed to be done by one person, how would the manager see to it that this person he can do it more than the other.
So yes, where you have more subordinates who can do the same thing, then you would have to make a choice, right? But how do you make the choice? You'd have to compare the competencies and skill. They say that two people cannot have the same way of doing things. So definitely, even though probably they can all do the task, but one can do it better than the other. Okay, so the manager would have to weigh the two subordinates, look at their skills, competencies, and see who can perform better. At the end of the day, you want the job to be done and done well. So you definitely pick the person who can do and do it well. Okay. However, it might not be the case that your choice will always perform, right? But definitely you'd have to make a choice, because if it is one person who can do, like the example I gave, your father cannot ask yourself and your brother to drive the same car. You would have to make a choice, either you or your brother. Okay. So yes, a professor is asking if the notes will be shared. Yes, I'll share the notes in a PDF format for you and also add the videos. Okay, so that is catered for. So Prof, now you would have to make a choice, and every manager has his own standards for choosing who to perform what task. Okay. But standardly you would have to compare their skills, competencies, experience, and know who can perform better. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, please. Can't they also bring like let me say envy or conflict between the subordinates?
Well, these things are bound to happen. Imagine like you being in class and a teacher asking a colleague to do something you feel you can do. Sometimes you get jealous. It's part of human nature. But that's why we have to collaborate and communicate. So even though the manager might choose one person to do it, he can create the spirit of collaboration and say, okay, well, you can do it together, but he knows that he has assigned the work to you. Okay, like your mother telling you to cook, but then say your sister can assist you in fetching water or something. That way, your sister is not left out and will not feel bad or jealous that mommy is asking you to cook, right? So he can create that collaborative system. But if one person is to do the job, definitely we have to make a choice. Okay. And some of these things happen in organizations and we can't do anything about it. So Augustine is asking, so in a centralized system, is there a possibility for delegation? Yes. In a centralized system, there is delegation, just that it is not as much as you see in a decentralized system. Okay. Okay, great. Professors, any further questions? I don't think so. So in wrapping up, we saw delegation as you assigning. Okay. Delegation means you are assigning the task and assignment to people. Okay. But as you're doing that, you add authority and responsibility. Right. And then we saw the principles of delegation. You have to assign responsibility, grant authority. Okay, so if you ask somebody to perform a task for you, you have to add authority, the power. Okay. For example, if you ask your friend to copy a note for you in your absence, then you have to grant that friend the authority to open your school bag and take the notebook. Right. You also have to provide the necessary resources and also establish accountability, hold the subordinates responsible. We've looked at some of the benefits of delegation and we saw that it reduces the stress on managers. Okay. It also speeds up, work and decision making. It also helps to save time. Okay. In the video, you realize the gentleman didn't even have time to sleep, right? If he had allowed the subordinates or those who came to him to do some of the things, he would have gotten enough time to do whatever he had to do. Okay. So professors, these are the concepts in there about delegation that we have to look at. But like I told you, I have an assignment for you. And that assignment is, there is a certain maxim. Okay, and I want you to explore that maxim and explain to us. And the phrase is delegatus non poter delegare. Okay, so it's a Latin phrase. Delegatus non poter delegare. Akoli is surprised. What it simply means is that a delegate cannot delegate. A delegate cannot delegate. Let me put it in plain terms so that you can understand. Your father asked you to take a car to the mechanic shop. You cannot tell your friend or your junior brother to take the car. So a delegate cannot delegate. If your superior has